Hello, everyone. My name is Caden Hickman. I'm excited to present today. And today I'm going to be presenting on changes in trade agreements and their effect on the supply chain. Supply chains are the lifeline to almost all types of businesses, as it provides the needed resources to produce goods and services offered. As trade agreements change, this can dramatically affect supply chains, which in turn affect the business. Trade agreements can determine if a business fails or succeeds, just primarily if they're able to get inputs into their system at an economical price. So what kind of really affects if a business is able to get in inputs is this thing called a tariff. And a tariff are taxes that are imposed on imports from other countries as they are shipped into the host country and are used to help protect domestic businesses, but can also greatly hinder free trade. Some of the pros of tariffs are, as mentioned, they promote domestic business, and they also allow for governments to collect tax revenue and also can be used for diplomacy. But some of the problems or cons is that they limit free trade. They also increase prices for businesses, which typically pass that price increase onto consumers, and limited supplier sources. So there's with tariffs, it typically limits who can businesses get their supplies from. And it's also just very efficient in the global economy. It usually typical countries, once the tariff is placed on them, they'll put one in, and it's kind of a war back and forth, and it's just kind of an inefficient way to go about things. Some recent trade agreements that we've seen is with the Trump administration, that they've engaged in what is called the trade wars between the United States and China. Both countries have imposed tariffs upon one another, mostly in retaliation to increasing tension. An example recently is there was a 15% tariff imposed on footwear and apparel, which includes backpacks, tennis shoes, handbags, and all that kind of stuff. And what has been seen since that tariff is months and even a year later, the prices on these goods have actually gone up dramatically. Even though I guess people usually don't take a picture of how much backpacks were last year, they definitely have gone up in price just due to this tariff and this trade war that's going on between countries. And this also affects the manufacturer greatly as well. As I mentioned, the manufacturer, the current supply chain right now is kind of wacky. One, due to COVID-19 shutting a lot of factories down, and these trade wars that have been occurring have surfaced giant cracks in the current supply chain that can be seen this year in 2021. Everyone has been affected, as you may have noticed. Typical products that you would have ordered would arrive in days now may not be arriving for a few months or maybe even half a year later, which is very annoying. I personally have a motorcycle from Honda that can't have a piston put in because there's none available for the past 6 months. And so it's definitely we've noticed the supply chain effects this year. And this is only affecting consumers, but it's also affecting businesses. Toyota is planned to slash production by 40% this year due just to limited input materials. They just can't get raw metal into the plant and glass and paint to build cars. And so even though there's high demand for new cars, they just can't build them because of trade wars and tariffs and also other issues in the supply chain. So what are people thinking is going to end up happening? Well, in a lot of the articles I have researched, there's this idea of called Industry 4.0 of how to kind of resolve the problem with sickness and supply chain and tariff problems. And the current pressure on the supply chain will foster growth for future opportunities. And trade agreements will have to be modified to ensure businesses are able to run. Currently, it's kind of a big mess, and I'm sure there definitely will be some changes coming, hopefully, to make sure trade can flow freely and the free market operates well. And also, they're thinking that robots will be more highly used in this Industry 4.0 to ease the burden of sickness on humans. And also this idea of 3D printing, which is starting to grow, that there's no need to have trade agreements or even ship things in when you can just 3D print all your parts. And the hope is with 3D printing that they'll be able to create smaller factories, local community factories that can just produce parts on the spot and just print it away, and not have to worry about getting parts from Indonesia to China to the United States to a different manufacturer and then finally to the consumer. So that's one of the hopes, is that there's this idea of the my way highway of people being able to have small factories where they're at, and hopefully be able to get away from this supply chain craziness and make it on a smaller scale. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see kind of what happens here in the future, and with trade agreements, and hopefully the supply chain gets fixed, because I sure would like to drive my motorcycle again. So thank you again for watching. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.